On today's Locked On Senators, it was a slap shot slump buster for Claude Giroux, giving the Sens a 3-2 shootout win over the Columbus Blue Jackets.
The Sens are hoping they can carry that momentum into the weekend where they have back-to-back games. We'll preview tomorrow's game up against the New York Islanders.
Isles are in a fight for their life. The East Wildcard is so tight. Who are we cheering for to make it into the Stanley Cup playoffs? We'll have those conversations and more on today's edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 1003 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. You can follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. The show is free and available on all podcast platforms, including on YouTube, where we say hello and let you know that a like, comment, and subscription go a long way to helping the show grow. Reminder, smash the notification bell. We will have postcasts both tomorrow afternoon and on Sunday evening. The Senators, a busy weekend ahead on the road tomorrow and then back at the Canadian Tire Center. Today is Friday, March 15th, and Pilsy, when the Sens are in the predicament that they're in, outside looking in, if they're going to find ways to win, at least it's the guys who are going to be a part of the solution that are doing just that. Claude Giroux and Tim Stützle get the 2 goals in regulation, and then they get the 2 goals in the shootout as well.
Yeah, and I mean, look, as everyone knows, I was fully on can't win team tank heading into last night's game. But this is a nice consolation prize from me. You at least Columbus gets the 1 point here. You make it exciting. You get the emphatic shootout winner. And like you mentioned, it's Tim Stützle and Claude Giroux, 2 guys that have really had good chemistry lately. They get the job done. So you like to see that, and Anton Forsberg gets a win up against his old squad. So no qualms from me here.
No, and Anton Forsberg, we could do a whole show talking about just how elite he is. And that's the frustrating part about Forsy, because when he's on his game, everyone can see how good of a goalie he is. He's just struggling with the inconsistency. And when he's not on top of his game, it feels like he's at the bottom of his game. It doesn't feel like there's much middle ground with him, which is frustrating as a fan because you're looking at that glove save. And we're going to pull up a picture in just a minute for those watching on YouTube. Our friends over at USA Today, they've got the chef's kiss. And I don't understand, because that was a very offensive zone driven possession. In the background, usually I always love looking at those ice level photos. The background, all the shocked faces, whether it's a goal against, the emotion of the crowd. That's what it's all about. There's 4 people on their phones in the front row. Like, you're witnessing a pretty nice save there, or
Kids
you should be.
Unbelievable.
I mean, there's some adults in there too, but anyways, it was an unbelievable save, and that's after it was 2-0. It was the next shift, so that really set the tone for the Senators to be able to come back in that game.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what we're seeing here, and that's why we consistently go back. I know we're a hashtag goalie friendly show, but we consistently go back. If this team could have got, that's an amazing picture right there. If I'm Anton Forsberg, that's going on the Insta for sure. If this team could get consistent average, or at least near average goaltending, they would be in such a better spot. We've seen when the goalies play well or even decently, the team either wins or at least is in games and they're competitive. But when the goaltending's bad, the team just deflates, and that's that. So Anton Forsberg, we have kind of decent confidence in him, but I agree with you, Ross. Either he's battling and he's showing an excellent performance, or he's just completely slumped in the crease and it's easy to get by him. So it'd be nice to meet somewhere in the middle more consistently.
.946 save percentage for Forsy last night, 35 saves on 37 shots. And one of those goals against was 15 seconds in, and our guy Nick Spence pointed out on social media, Pillsy, you mushed him. Hey, this Columbus Blue Jackets team, they don't have a single 20-goal scorer.
Yeah.
Bang! Right in your face. Boone Jenner gets his 20th of the year.
Yeah, and after I emphasize this team had 98 shot attempts, they couldn't even score. They got no 20-goal score as well. Boone Jenner must have been listening to that because he didn't appreciate that, and they got that turned around real quick up against the Ottawa Senators.
Real quick. Hey, I want to give a quick shout out to the fourth line because Kastelik, Tkachuk, and Kelly returning from a 2-game absence. Tkachuk moving around, coming to Ottawa, getting to play into his second game with the Senators. Third game because he played in San Jose briefly. He was awesome in the light amount of time, and we listened to Jacques Martin after the postcast last night. It was a bit of a later posting, and he mentioned it too. He's like, I flipped the fourth and the third line last night. The Ostapchuk, Ridley Gregg, Dominic Kubalik line didn't play as much in last night's game as they did in the game against Pittsburgh, but it worked out because that's kind of what you can do when you're able to have different guys step up on different nights. And we're also seeing that in the top six. A couple of games ago, we were talking about Pinto, Tkachuk, and Batherson being the line that's getting everybody going at 5-on-5. The last couple of games, it's been the Stützle, Giroux, and Joseph line that's kind of overtaken that. So that's a good sign in a sense that on any given night, guys will step up. You just hope you can find a bit more consistency. And I'm sure that's how Jacques Martin's feeling about this team as well. But overall, look, I get it. I get where fans are coming from with, you do want the higher draft pick. First and foremost, you're not going to drop below Chicago or San Jose or Anaheim. Anaheim is pulled below. They can't find a win recently.
But that's why losing up against Columbus, that's why I was so hard on that fact.
I get it. Ottawa is in the neighborhood with Columbus, Montreal, and Arizona. Those are the teams we're watching for the final 18 games.
Correct.
Arizona got 2 points last night. Cherry on top that it was against the Detroit Red Wings, who are in complete free fall mode. That'll be a part of our next topic where who do we want to be in the East wildcard? As Senators fans, do you have a rooting interest? Let us know in the comments as well. We'll have that conversation coming up next, but let's put a bow on this game against the Columbus Blue Jackets. I'll spin zone it and say this was an important morale win for the Ottawa Senators in terms of going and feeling good about themselves coming into a tough back-to-back this weekend.
Yeah, that's the thing. Fans can want to tank, GMs can want to tank, but coaches and players, they don't want to tank. They don't want to be racking up those losses. It wears on them probably more than we even know. So you want to get that win, especially, Ross, when you're looking at the game notes and you're looking at the roster, and this is the only team in the Eastern Conference worse than you, and they're missing 7 of their 4 or 6. I think it ended up being 6 of their forwards. You don't want to be losing this game. So to come out with the win was great. I kind of wanted to get into this, and maybe people will get on me for this, Ross, but I have a take here, and love Claude Giroux, love the clapper phenomenon that's happening right now. Ridley Gregg into the empty net. Claude Giroux, when he had that one in San Jose, absolutely incredible. Obviously, I'm a fan of Claude Giroux. I'm a fan of the Ottawa Senators. But as a goalie, my blood boils at the fact that people are taking clappers in the shootout. It's from the goalie argument, it drives me nuts because sure, that's you. Maybe some people will be like, that's the equivalent of a big league closer pitcher coming at you with a 102-mile-per-hour fastball right down the middle and says, here it is. Let's see if you can get it. And that's what Claude Giroux does with that slap shot. And that's fine. I get it. But in a shootout, it feels different to me. And that just feels like a cheap way out.
Trying
to beat the goalie. But if it works, hell yeah, it looks awesome. But all I'm saying is he's done it before too. He did it in Toronto too. Ironic, hilarious that it was against Toronto. Morgan Rielly must have been really rattled on the bench. But if you don't want guys to do it, stop it. It seems that's kind of his bag of tricks. Yeah, 100%. And I'm glad you said that because that's why I prefaced. Loved it. Ridley Gregg into the empty cage. Loved it last year in San Jose. But the shootout is a little different in my mind. And the goalie community, maybe people can back me up, fellow attendees here, that just It irks me. It irks me. But as a Senators fan, I'll take it. I'll watch the highlights. I'm all for it. But I gotta think that because like Merzlikins' reaction was priceless. He just gets beats clean, and he's not pissed. He's not upset. He's just kind of looking around like, and then he just slowly is watching the replay. Like not like there's no like he's just like, what the hell am I supposed to do with that?
Well, I think if it had gone through him, that's one thing. There's a great angle that is finding its way around social media that it hit all three posts. It went right post up. Like you could not have placed a shot more perfect than Claude Giroux did there.
No, exactly. He beat him, and it's funny because Ross, Claude even said in the post game, I thought that hit the post and went out. Yeah, it hit all the posts, but luckily it stayed in there. So that's a nice one if you're Claude Giroux. And he knew he was going to do it. He also said in the post game, I told everyone if it gets to me in the shootout, that's what I'm doing. So
well, he told John Abbott after the game, he said the ice was bad, so it didn't really. He's like, that's all I got for you.
Yeah, I mean, fair, because he makes a good point. Like, you're playing the third period, you're playing the overtime, and then he's the final shooter. So that ice has been worn down and it's soft. So if you're trying to go in and make a silky deke, it's going to be a lot harder. Who was it? Drake that was telling us a similar thing, Ross, way back in the day. We asked him his shootout attempt moves, and he said, well, wait, is the ice clean or not? Because that changes everything for them. So I guess in that sense, I'll give a little more credit to the slap shot move. It's a vet move when you know the ice is going to be more difficult to pull off a deke. But, oh, man, it's tough for tendies. Nothing's easy for tendies, and that's a whole lot harder, especially when it's with a vet like Claude Giroux that can pick that spot perfectly.
Nice shot. Nice guy. Claude Giroux was handed the helmet after the game from Jake Sanderson. Shout out to the Ottawa Fire Department, all the work they do. And he goes, boys, let me just hand this to an unsung hero, a guy who has stepped up in recent weeks, and he gives it to Eric Brandstrom. That was a nice moment in the Senators locker room. For more on last night's game, go check out the postcast wherever you get your podcast. Martian and I chopped it up after a 3-2 Senators shootout win. On the other side, it's a huge game for the New York Islanders tomorrow afternoon on Long Island, 12:30 start, and they are fighting for their playoff lives. So we're going to take a look at the East wildcard situation, and the Buffalo Sabres are even making things interesting. So who are we cheering for to get in and to miss the playoffs? That plus a game day preview is next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, tons of time, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now, some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024 validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% match on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. Check it out today, guys. Robinhood.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at the Glebe Central Pub. The Glebe Central Pub is located right in the heart of the Glebe at 779 Bank Street. It's a neighborhood pub. You can head there for great food, awesome drinks, an atmosphere to match, and the event is what really makes it feel like a place you can call a home away from home. They've got the dartboard, they've got the live music, they've got the trivia nights, they've got it all at the Glebe Central Pub. They're also an Arsenal supporter bar, so if you're interested in that, you can go check out their matches over there. And they've also got the Senators shuttle. The Sens shuttle runs to and from the CTC for only $17. To go see when the Sens bus is running, just head to GlebeCentralPub.com and click the link Sens bus. You can scroll down, see the games that are remaining. They are coming up for the game on the March 21st against St. Louis, March 24th against Edmonton, and March 28th against Chicago. So go get your tickets for only $17 round trip to and from the CTC. That's $17 to and from the CTC. They leave an hour and 15 minutes before the game from the Glebe Central Pub, and they'll bring you right back afterwards. So go check them out today and let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. It's at 779 Bank Street, where the vibes are free at the GCP. All right, Pilsy. It is a 3-4 for the Ottawa Senators, so no full practice today. It was an optional skate for the Senators. They had a pretty good attendance, but no line combinations. So when we get to our game day preview in the next segment, we will just pull up last night's lineup. A winning lineup. Heck, the Sens have not lost a game since our 1000th episode. Very polite of them. They are 2-0. Sens admin on Twitter, though, not as chill. I posted this right after the Senators opened the game. 8 minutes ago, time for some Sens action. 7 minutes ago, Columbus opens the score. Pilsy, have you seen this yet?
Yeah.
So I put art as the caption. Well, would you look at that? After the game, the Senators post just a photo of Claude Giroux firing in his slap shot that Pilsy's being an old man yells at Cloud about. And they put the caption art. So you know what? Stick taps to the Ottawa Senators social media. I love being on the wrong end of a good social media scrum. What would you call that? Just a little put me in my place type thing. A little clap back.
Yeah, a little clapper there. No, that's fine. I don't think that was aggressive or anything.
Clap back. I like that with the slap shot. But
no, that's great. Because I'm sure Sens admin is like, look, I know this happens several times.
He's like, these guys tag us in their show title every single day.
Rent free.
No, we're paying rent.
Yeah,
but cool. All jokes aside, it is great to see the Ottawa Senators able to regroup. And going into last night, I mentioned this on the postcast, but I'll say it again for the people in the back, or maybe you haven't had a chance to listen to the postcast. Going into last night's third period trailing, Ottawa had gone into the third period trailing 29 times. 29 times they'd gone into the third period trailing this year. They had 2 wins going into last night's game. So make it 3-30. Make it 3-30 now. And now on the road going into the third period trailing, the Senators improved to 2-12-1.
Woo!
So we're on to New York, on to Long Island, where the Senators are taking on a team that is fighting for their playoff lives. Now, do I have a bit of a beef with the fact that the Islanders have 14 overtime and shootout losses? Yeah, sure. But I got to tell you, Pilsy, looking at all the options on the table, and we're going to pull it up for those watching on YouTube, I'm cheering for the Islanders to make the playoffs. I'll say it. Is that brave of me? I'm telling you right now, I want the Islanders to make the playoffs.
I'm with you, Ross. Let's get on the island here. I mean, this would be ideal for us for the Sens tank to lose this game and the Islanders to stay ahead here. Because I think, Ross, I don't think we're going to shock anyone with the direction we take with this segment. But I'm going to go ahead and say both of us are on the same side of this. We're looking at Metro teams to sneak in and the Atlantic division teams to miss the playoffs. Do I got that right here?
In a sense, honestly,
okay.
I don't mind if Tampa makes the playoffs.
Oh, no, I wasn't talking about Tampa. Yeah, I think Tampa's going to make the playoffs.
Right. But so you just think there's one spot up for grabs. And if people are just listening, going into Friday night's action, Tampa Bay with 76 points, 66 games. The Islanders are 4 points back of Tampa. So Tampa's got a little bit of a clearance there. And then Detroit is tied with the Islanders. However, the Isles do have a game in hand on Detroit at 72 points. Washington, a big win in Seattle, a late third period goal got them the victory there. So they're at 71 points, 1 point out of a playoff spot. They also have a game in hand on Detroit. And then Buffalo, sneaky 3 straight wins, and they're playing Detroit in their next game. They win that game. All of a sudden, they're only 1 point back of Detroit. But as it stands right now, they're 3 points out of a playoff spot, and they do have a couple extra games played. So I'm drawing the line right there. I think the Devils and below, everyone else there is completely 0% chance of making the playoffs. But I think like the Islanders, I want them to make it because if you look at it the way it stands, and if they do finish with that first wild card spot, like them playing the Rangers would just be great theater. I think they would give the Rangers their best series. What's that?
We saw it in the Stadium Series, right? Like that was one hell of a game between the New York teams.
Oh no, I'm talking about the Islanders playing. Or sorry, did I say the Islanders? I meant the Lightning. The Lightning playing the Rangers, and they played last night. That was a great game too, back and forth. Braden Point had 6 points in that game, but no, it would just be, I think, better hockey than if Washington were to somehow sneak in or Buffalo. I'm just cheering for Detroit to miss. I mean, that's where it comes down to.
Ross, I think the way the standings are right now would be great for me. But the thing is, Ross, I don't want Detroit to just miss. I want them to have a game at the end of the season. Maybe you can check what their last game is. And I want that game to be the game where if they win, they're in. And if they lose, they're out. And I want them to get absolutely blown out in that game. Red Wings fans are like, these Sens fans are looking at the Red Wings schedule. They're rent-free, blah, blah, blah.
You know who their last 2 games are against? I actually hate this. I need them to be out before then. They've got a home and home against Montreal, yeah.
Both games against Montreal? Oh, come on, God.
Yeah. Their last 4 games, too. They're at Pittsburgh, at Toronto, home to Montreal, at Montreal.
Damn. Okay, that's
still have like their schedule though is very much like a who's who of who we just mentioned. They're playing Buffalo next. Then in 3 games they play the Islanders. They've got Washington on the road.
Wow.
They've got Buffalo at home again. They've got Washington at home again. Like they've got a lot of these teams that are in the mix. So they better figure it out because the Red Wings have lost 7 in a row since putting a literal garbage company on their jersey. But that's enough of Red Wings chat.
Just one more thing, Ross. I think their success is probably going to be tied into Dylan Larkin's health. Larkin back on the ice today. It's their captain. He's a big part of their team. Otherwise, JT Compher is their number 1 center. Okay. So they need him back in a big way. So it'll be interesting to see when he comes back and what kind of impact he can make.
We'll see as we go down the stretch, but whoever's playing the Florida Panthers, in other words, whoever finishes in that final wild card spot, good luck in the first.
If Washington makes it, though, they're just going to get the absolute wheels beat off them. So part of me is hoping that doesn't happen just because it's going to be sad and it's not going to be good hockey.
Yeah, well, the Islanders and Florida Panthers have a long history of playoff series. In other words, I believe 1. That might have been,
I was like, what? Really?
I think it was the only playoff series that John Tavares won during his time in New York or on Long Island. But neither here nor there. Playoffs are always a great time, and the first round especially. So we want good matchups, but also the teams that get in the mix with us on social media, their fan bases, I hope they all miss. So that's where we're at.
I hope the absolute worst for them and that they suffer in misery.
So final answer for me, Tampa Bay and the New York Islanders are the 2 teams that I would like to have.
Agreed. And the Islanders are a good team to make it in, Ross, because they're not a splashy regular season team, but they have the group, and we'll get to it obviously in our game day preview, but they have the group and the goaltending to at least give better teams a tough go, right? Whereas the Red Wings, maybe not. The Washington Capitals, definitely not. And the Buffalo Sabres, probably not either, right? So I think that would be best for hockey.
Let us know in the comments what your ideal playoff matchups are in the Eastern Conference, or get wild and tell us the West as well. On the other side, game day preview against the New York Islanders. We'll tell you how you could potentially win 2 tickets to the game Sunday against Carolina, and a whole lot more. You're listening to Locked On Senators. It's your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Ibotta. Guys, grocery bills are so expensive these days, but now they don't have to be. Start getting cash back on your grocery shopping with the free Ibotta app and get cash back every time you shop. Ibotta is a free app that gives you the most cash back every time you shop on hundreds of items, from grocery store to beauty supplies to toys, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. In fact, the average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip right there. Other apps, they give you points, but then you got to convert the points. You don't know how much they're worth. You got to spend all that time. Don't worry about that with Ibotta. Join over the 50 million users that earn cash back every time you shop from over 2,700 brands and retailers. So it's not just a couple stores. It's not the stores you don't know. It includes stores like Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. So right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 for just trying Ibotta by using code LOCKEDONNHL when you register. Just go to the app or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONNHL. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKEDONNHL. Check it out today, guys. Ibotta.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our great friends at Farm to Fork. FarmToForkDelivery.ca. They bring you all the premium quality meat and seafood that your heart desires. Our friend Mark Mathot just got a nice shipment, and he has been already texting me that the lean ground beef is the perfect complement to his daily routine. He says he loves them with Brussels sprouts and he puts all the seasoning on it. Basically, the beauty of Farm to Fork delivery, outside of the fact that it's antibiotic free, hormone free, naturally, ethically raised, and the fact that it's absolutely delicious. Just go look at their average 5-star reviews on Google. But the beauty of it too is that they're individually vacuum sealed. So you buy in bulk, but they're individually vacuum sealed so that it seals in all the freshness cut right at the butcher's table into their flash freezing system. So it gets to you in as perfect of a state as it can be. So what it also does at farmtoforkdelivery.ca is allows you to only go to the grocery store and buy your fresh veggies, and then you can complement it with your farm to fork meat. They've got sustainable seafood. They've got all the grass-fed beef that your heart desires. Go check out their bundles and everything else online at farmtoforkdelivery.ca. That's the number 2, farmtoforkdelivery.ca, and go taste the Farm to Fork difference. You'll see it. You don't want to know how long the meat's been sitting there at the grocery store. You want to make sure that you are getting Farm to Fork. And because you're a listener of Locked On Senators, LOSP10 gets you 10% off your first order by going to farmtoforkdelivery.ca. Go taste the Farm to Fork difference. You will never go back to grocery store meats. All right, Pilsy, here we are. It's a feel-good Friday after a Senators back-to-back victories. First time they've won back-to-back games since, 2 weeks ago, when they beat the Dallas Stars and the Vegas Golden Knights at home. They're going to hope for some more road cooking tomorrow against the New York Islanders. We already talked about how, look, we're kind of closet New York Islanders fans over the next couple weeks. We know Jean-Gabriel Pageau brings his best in the postseason, and we want to see him get back to his old ways. This is a team that has no prospects to speak of either. So it's almost like Tampa.
The only team worse than Ottawa, right? In Scott Wheeler's prospect rankings.
Well, and Tampa was right there too. So it's almost like, look, these teams, while Ottawa's still on the outside, give these teams their last couple pushes, these veteran teams, these older teams. Like, you know what? Let them go out and have a few more extra games played at the end of the year. But like you said, they've got the goaltending. If Sorokin can keep figuring it out, they're going to be a tough out come playoff. They've got kind of a playoff-built team with a lot of veterans and a lot of big bodies on the back end, which, I mean, if you're a team like Ottawa on the outside looking in, you're looking and you're like, wow, they got a lot of size. They got a lot of meat. And that's how you can kind of will yourself into a playoff spot, even when you don't have the most talented rosters per se. Before we get to the Islanders, though, let's look at the Ottawa Senators and how we expect them to line up in tomorrow afternoon's game. I think I've noted, but it is a 12:30 Eastern time start. The Senators, we expect them to line up the same as in the last game. That would be Shane Pinto in between Brady Tkachuk and Drake Batherson. Tim Stützle between Mathieu Joseph and Claude Giroux, Zach Ostapchuk with Ridley Gregg and Dominic Kubalik on his wings, and then Mark Kastelik between Boris Kachuk and Parker Kelly. On the back end,
Gesundheit.
Jake Sanderson, Artem Zub, Jacob Chikrin with Max Gannett, and Eric Brandstrom with Jacob Bernard Docker. I'd go right back to Anton Forsberg, but with the back-to-back, home and home, whatever you want to call it.
Here we go.
It doesn't matter. One goalie's playing each game.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. I would go to Forsberg as well, Ross. My locked on player for tomorrow's game is going to be Shane Pinto. We talked about how the Stützle, Joseph, Giroux line has been hot at times. Then in Pittsburgh, it was Greg and Ostapchuk had good chemistry. Last night's game, it was the fourth line. Let's see that top line of Kachuk, Pinto, Batherson kind of get going again. So I think Pinto's going to be a big part of that. He's going to have his work cut out for him, probably going up against, well, it'll be interesting to see how they do the matchups, which line, whether he's going to go up against Pajot or Bo Horvat, both of them tough responsibilities for the young center. So I want to see Shane Pinto get that line going again.
Okay, I like that. And he's going to have his friends and family all in attendance.
Yeah, true. And the Long Island connection. Nice. Yeah.
We know he likes to get his boys like to get in the mix too. So
I hope that crew shows up again. Those guys were electric. We gotta try to contact some of those guys. They seem like absolute beauties.
Oh yeah, maybe a little summer interview, a little summer feature there for sure. I love that. So with Shane Pinto being yours, I'm going to stick with the hashtag #NodakSens. Jacob Bernard Docker has been quietly pretty good recently. That assists on Timmy's tying goal in the third period last night. Nice little snap over. Him and Bernard, him and Brandstrom. He is JBD. JBD is him. That's been really nice combination. And I thought about moving them up and putting Chikrin and Gannett as the third pair because Chikrin's getting a ton of shots. He's still the decision making still questionable for me a lot of the time. Gannett's been just fine. Coming up, but we know Travis Hamonic skating. I'm sure he'll be in the mix once he gets back healthy, but I'm going to go with Jacob Bernard Docker. I really liked what I've seen from him in recent games, and he was rewarded with a little more ice time last night, playing 16 minutes and 46 seconds in that game, the most he's played in a game in the last month. So good to see for him getting some ice time, and I'm going to be watching JBD tomorrow, seeing what he's going to do against an Islanders team that really likes to grind you down low and try to make things difficult in the corners. And that's where I want to see if JBD is going to be a part of the solution on this team. Look, he's kind of like, he's okay at he's like a jack of all trades, master of none right now, or a Jacob of all trades, master of none, but I want to see him be a little bit more mean, a little bit more physical in his own zone. I think that would really elevate what we could see as an average performance for JBD. But he's showing good puck skills and he's showing good vision in recent games. So we're hoping that continues on for JBD. Moving our attention to the New York Islanders. There's our boy, JGP. Top line, we expect it to be Bo Horvat between Brock Nelson and Matthew Barzal. JG Pajot between Anders Lee and Kyle Palmieri. Casey Cizikas centering Pierre Engvall and Simon Holmstrom. And then the fourth line, McLean, Martin, and Clutterbuck. On the back end, my goodness, I just didn't even update the D-Pillsy. We're in one today with the New York Islanders. I can pretty much just tell you the Islanders lines because we've always know that the Islanders, they don't change things.
You want me to read them off?
I got him, baby. Adam Pelech with Noah Dobson, Alexander Romanov with Ryan Pulock, and Mike Riley, hashtag sends abroad with Sebastian, no, not that Aho.
Yes, that is the D pair for the Islanders. I think they found a lot of success splitting up Pelech and Pulock. My God, the broadcasters have to be absolutely relieved for that. Pelech and Pulock, that combo must be tough for them. But I just think it really helped out their lineup. And Noah Dobson is looking like an absolute stud. He's among one of the top defensemen in points for this season. Actually, I think I'm looking at it now. He's fifth in defensemen in points with the likes of Hughes, Makar, Hedman, and Yossi, then Dobson. So that's a pretty huge boost for him. And then they've been getting a lot out of Alexander Romanov. I think a lot of people kind of wondered why the Islanders decided to go with him. I think they traded a first-round pick for him, but it's worked out for them.
Yeah, it was in that trade where Montreal ends up getting Kirby Dach. It was a three-way trade. I think they got 13th overall in exchange.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were surprised by that, especially with the Islanders' pipeline not too good. But the Islanders are trying to get roster guys now, so that worked out for them. However, Ross, none of those guys are going to be my lookout player. My lookout player for the New York Islanders is going to be number 29, Brock Nelson. I think he's one of the most underrated goal scorers in the league. He had 37 goals, 36 goals, and right now he's sitting on 29 goals, on pace for 37. So like this guy is going to have 3 consecutive years in a row scoring 30 goals. And the success of this team kind of hinges on Brock Nelson, because this is a team that plays a stout defensive game. They don't have a lot of goal scorers. Nelson is certainly a goal scorer. And it's been weird for the Islanders this stretch. So they've been on a 6-game winning streak, but then their last 2 games, they were shut out by LA and Buffalo. That loss to Buffalo is huge for implications. But look at this, Ross. In that 6-game winning streak, Brock Nelson had a 5-game point streak the last half of the 6 games. And in those 6 games, or even the 5 games, he's had 10 points, 4 goals, and 6 assists. So this team really relies on Brock Nelson to be putting the puck in the back of the net for them to have success. So a big part, I would say a key to victory, Ross, would be shut down that first line. And there's not a lot of goal support throughout the rest of the lineup here.
There really isn't. I'm looking for another North Dakota alumni, because right now we're 3 for 3 in terms of Nodak alumni.
Oh,
for
true. I didn't even realize that. Nice.
Locked on player Brock Nelson, legend at Nodak too. But my lookout player, I'm sure a lot of Sens fans are curious how Jean-Gabriel Pageau's doing, so I'll have him as my lookout player. Points not where they've been since moving to New York, where with the Islanders, he's been a bit more of a point producer, I want to say. I know that the last year in Ottawa during the trade, he was electric. He had 24 goals in 60 games. He really struggled when going to the Islanders. He only had 2 goals in 7 games. But then since, he's been in double digits in goals every year. This year, he's stuck at 8 right now in 65 games. Face-off, though, always a good face-off guy, 54%. We know he's defensively responsible. And as he did in Ottawa, he still just brings his best in the playoffs. Not last year, but the 2 years where the Islanders went to the conference finals, he had 11 and 13 points, respectively, in each of those seasons. So JGP always going to be in Sens lore as one of those guys who just comes up in the clutch. That game against Montreal, where it was the line brawl, it was everything else. People forget Jean-Gabriel Pageau was 20 years old and got a hat trick in the playoffs in that game. It was just something else to see. And good Ottawa guy. We know he still makes his home in Ottawa in the offseason. And we're always rooting for JGP in the playoffs, because this guy is an electric factory. So hopefully he can, maybe have one more game without a point. He's gone 3 straight without one, but I'm rooting for him down the stretch. And I feel like a lot of Sens fans must feel the same way.
Oh, yeah. JG Pageau has been a staple on our Sens Abroad playoff lineup.
Yes, very much so. And I know last year he only had 1 assist in 6 games. The Islanders weren't able to get past the first round. But the year before, 13 points in 19 games. The year before, 8 goals in 22 games. So, he's a heck of a player, man. He really is. And I don't need to convince Sens fans of that, dude. They call him the Honey Badger for a reason. So, shout out to JGP and shout out to the New York Islanders, who we're cheering for to make the playoffs this year.
Ross, ironically, do we have a battle for the Honey Badger nickname? Because Ridley Gregg is claiming that. And Ridley Gregg was drafted with the pick they acquired from getting JG Pageau. So that will forever go down as the Honey Badger trade.
Yeah, I like that, actually. I didn't put 2 and 2 together there. By the way, we do have a confirmation from head coach Jacques Martin. You and I are wrong. It will be Eunice Corpusalo in goal against the Islanders, and Forsberg will start Sunday against Carolina.
Okay. Actually, I don't mind that, because Forsy starting in the game that I will be boots on the ground for, not bad. Not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. Any final thoughts on today's show, Pilsy? We do also want to let people know that we have a giveaway going on Twitter right now at Sens Central. 2 seats for the game Sunday against Carolina. So you can go retweet. There's a couple other things there. We will do the draw on social media. this evening, I will post the winner, just randomize as we always do for these giveaways. And if you don't win, no sweat. We do have discounted tickets to give away for this game as well. Shouldn't say giveaway. We have discounted tickets for sale for this game. We don't get any kickback on it. We just wanted to help out with the vibes and make sure that people who maybe it's a $10, $15 too expensive or whatever the case may be, want to make sure we're helping out and creating a good atmosphere with Pilsy's birthday, boots on the ground. Maybe we'll get the Sens Central section to sing happy birthday to you.
Yeah, I mean, that would be pretty awesome. Yeah, the discounted tickets, despite what some people on Twitter thought or put up against us, the Sens giving discounted tickets to hundreds of Sens fans is not a personal favor for us. We're doing that for the people, and the Sens are doing that for the people. It's my birthday, 31st birthday, St. Patty's Day. It's going to be absolute blast. So, Ross, final thoughts for me is...
Wow.
Here we go.
St. Pilsy's Day.
I got the green Sens bucket hat. If you guys are just listening, check it out on YouTube. St. Patty's Day, Ottawa Senators versus the Carolina Hurricanes. I know we're on Team Tank, but I want to be there for a win. I want to celebrate with everyone. I'll be in section 210. Come say what up to me, and we'll have an absolute blast. It's a green light for me on Sunday, Ross. So I'm going to be having a good time regardless of how the game goes.
Enjoy, and maybe we'll get a special appearance with you on the postcast on Sunday. I'll be steering the ship steady on Sunday, and then Pillsy will break everything down, what he saw more coherently on Monday. We are your team every day. For more from us, make sure you're following on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube as well. It does go a long way to helping the show grow. And be a friend, tell a friend. Whether you're stealing your friend, your family member's phone, subscribing there, it all goes a long way to helping the show.
Ross, bonus points if you get a Habs or a Leafs fan to subscribe to the show. Bonus points. And Red Wings. We'll throw that in there too.
That's Brandon Piller. I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.